Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here in our virtual conference, Vida Talks, Stepping into a Positive Life. My name is Jessica Lerma, and I work with Project Vida as a facilitator with the Capacity Development Team. We work with schools in training in trauma-informed approaches, as well with EPIDOG, El Paso Association of Directors of Guidance, and working with several schools to develop systems and projects with them. So again, thank you for being here. The topic for this workshop is moving forward with motivation. The times have been hard, and sometimes finding the will and motivation to do something can make us feel stuck and in a funk. We will be reviewing some strategies to increase and sustain our motivation with tasks and learn how to be self-compassionate. We will be doing a few activities that involve writing, so if you'd like to have a pen and pencil ready, or your computer or phone ready to type, whatever works best for you. So a few things before we begin is that this session will be recorded and will be shared with all of you to use however you like to share with your peers to review. We would also like for all of you to participate and encourage you to participate with unmuting yourself when you'd like to speak, but please mute yourself to avoid any outside noises when other people are speaking. If you'd like to use the chat box and that's something that you feel more comfortable with, please feel welcome to use that chat box or mute yourself like I mentioned, whatever you feel comfortable with. And lastly, we understand that you might need to step away from the computer for whatever reason. Please feel free to use PRB or be right back so we know you're away from your desk. I hope you all feel comfortable to be yourself. This is a safe space, and I want to invite you all to engage and participate as we move along. So the objectives for today are that at the end of this, participants will identify the meaning of motivation, understand the relationship between self-compassion and motivation, learn habits to increase and maintain motivation, and identify personal values and goals. So my first question to you all is, what do you want to be motivated for? Do you want to be motivated for sports? Do you want to be motivated for school? Do you want to be motivated to start a new project? Do you just want to be motivated overall? And what is motivation to you? Is it the driving force to make you do something? Is it that itchiness that makes you do something? What is motivation to you? And what do you want to be motivated for? So, according to Google, motivation is defined as the reason one has for acting or behaving in a particular way, and or the general desire or willingness of someone to do something. Motivation is sort of our trigger and our drive to do or not to do things. Motivation doesn't only have one driving factor, but a lot of other factors that affect that motivation, such as maybe having negative thoughts, our self-esteem, our belief that we can do something, our self-efficacy, the capacity that we have to do things. Do I have the appropriate tools? Can I actually do it? Maybe external and internal support. Are there people out there supporting you to do things? Are you supporting yourself? How do we improve that motivation? How can we build from that motivation and how do we sustain it? So there is something called locus of control, which is a belief about whether the outcomes of our actions are contingent on what we do, internal control, or an event of outside our personal control, external control. And this was by Philip Zimbardo, a philosopher that talks about motivation. And he believes that we have two different types of motivation, intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation believe that their success or failure is their own doing. Extrinsic motivation believes that their success and reward comes from influences outside their control. So what does this mean? If someone is more intrinsically motivated, they believe that their success and their failure comes from themselves, meaning that maybe they can be really hard on themselves when something fails, or maybe they can be very celebratory about themselves if they succeed. But it could also mean that they're too clouded or they don't see the external factors that might be affecting the success or their failure or the outcome in their general goal. When you're extrinsically motivated, you take into consideration those external factors, meaning that maybe in whatever task you're doing, the time wasn't enough. Maybe the weather affected the outcome of that goal. Maybe other people affected the outcome of the of the goal. But if we overuse it, maybe we blame those external factors on our success or failure. And we don't take into consideration the input that we have into doing these tasks. So there's no right or wrong way to use this motivation. There is the goal to find a balance between these two, because we can't just always be intrinsically motivated or always be extrinsically motivated. We need to have accountability of what we can do and what we can't do, and take into consideration the external factors that might be affecting the outcomes of those. So as I explained in the previous slide, intrinsic and extrinsic motivation are key factors on the way that we use our motivation to move forward. There is such thing as overusing, underusing, or using it equally. As you can see on the screen, I have chosen different characters from different shows and movies, and I want you to tell me which type of motivation they use more often. So for example, we have Loki up here. Loki is usually seen as the person who is very sneaky, who's always trying to take power, who's a liar, and sometimes gets excited for that win. And that could be extrinsic motivated, right? But as we see, Loki changes very so often and sometimes uses his intrinsic motivation to do other things. Now we have Maui down here. Maui sings a song, if you've seen Moana, sings the song, You're Welcome. He is one of the god of all the humans, and it ends up being shunned for the things that he does because he likes that glory. He likes to have that power. He likes to be celebrated by other people. And that's what moves him. That's what makes him motivated to do the things that he does. So he's more extrinsically motivated. But once he meets Moana, once he does the tasks to beat, to bring the heart of Te Fiti, he learns to be more intrinsic and learns because he wants to do it from his internal want to do things right. Now we have Moana. Moana was always for her people, right? She always wanted to bring the goods back to her island. And one of the reasons is why she left the island and take the heart back to Te Fiti. So she's more intrinsically motivated. But at the beginning, when she was trying to force herself to leave the island, she wasn't thinking about her island and her people, her dad's fear for her to leave. So as she was being too intrinsically motivated, she wasn't thinking about those factors and using her extrinsic motivation. And we can review the other characters as we move along, but we will be seeing a short video. I hope you enjoy it. Please let me know what you think.
stupid. I can't believe you forgot something easy. This was basic. Why are you having so much trouble doing something so simple?
People don't want me around, that I'm uninteresting, boring, and or just too weird for people's company.
It says that I should have done better, and sometimes it says mean words about myself.
It's probably the loudest thing that's usually coming through my head before anything else is at least ringing that failure over and over again.
And let me give you a scenario where a friend of yours comes to you, has made a mistake, and what would you say to that friend?
Well, the first thing I would tell them that it's okay. You don't need to feel all the weight of this.
Most likely you're holding on to this more tightly than anybody else.
This in no way, reflects your character or reflects your ability to do something. Definitely a lot kinder to my friends than I am to myself.
How do you think you would change if you used that same voice that you use towards your friends on yourself during those moments of failure and mistakes?
I think it would be, incredible because you're not going to talk to your friends the way that you talk to yourself sometimes. And I think that if you're constantly kind of reassuring yourself and letting yourself know that you are enough, then your thought process will change.
When you treat yourself like you do somebody else, you start feeling better, I think, right away, and you keep it in context much more instead of letting things be blown out of proportion.
I think I would have a lot less anxiety in my day to day. I think there would be kind of a weight lifted.
It would definitely make me feel better and happier, because when I usually say, when that voice that says mean stuff in my head, I'm not really happy and sad.
How could the world look differently if we were more compassionate towards ourselves?
I think the world would work better. I think through compassion and self-compassion, we all would just recognize that we're all human.
As a society, we could learn to love one another and show that love on a regular basis. I think that this world would be perfect.
There's a saying that if you love yourself, then you can love others. Well, sometimes I believe it goes in the reverse, and that if you can show that compassion that you show to others and bring it into yourself, I think that's where true growth can happen.
I think it would be magical. That's really the only word for it, magical, to be able to reflect on ourselves from a place of love rather than criticism.
So how did you feel about the video? It talks a little bit about the fact that sometimes we can be very compassionate towards our friends, towards our family, towards those that are close to us. We like to extend our hand to them. We like to extend our gratitude towards them. But we need to reflect on what we can do for ourselves. When we're talking about motivation and our drive, if we don't feel good, we won't be motivated. And that's not your fault. Excuse me. There are too many things out of our control to say we can be positive and motivated all the time. What we can learn to do is to be self-compassionate with ourselves. Being compassionate means being able to recognize that we are human, that we make mistakes, and that we have the ability to move forward. Being that person not only for your friends and family, but for yourself. The video talks about all of these people having this voice in their head about negative things that we say to ourselves. And it's normal. I feel like we've all had that voice in our head, and we're gonna have that voice in our head. But like the question in the video said, if this was your friend, how would you respond? This is you. How do you respond? Believe in yourself, believe that you are worth it, believe that you can make mistakes, believe that you're good enough. If we are able to practice self-compassion, we are able to grow and build ourselves. We're able to face challenges. We're able to pat ourselves in the back simply for being there. Pat yourself in the back simply for being here. Now that we've spoken a little bit about self-compassion, I want to check in with all of you. Sometimes finding motivation in life is learning what do we value in our life so we can have that motivation to push towards those values. What do you value in your life? It could be school, it could be your friends, your family, your success. What is that one thing that won't let you stop moving? And how can you push yourself towards that value, towards that goal? Now that you've identified what those values are, think about the things that you are currently doing. Is it bringing you joy? Is it bringing you any benefit? If not, what can you do to change that? What can you do to change that perspective? And finally, what is really under your control? Remember that there will always be external and internal factors that may knock us down sometimes, but at the end of the day, the only thing that we can change are the things that we can control, such as our mindset, our perspective, and our actions. So I'd like to begin with our first activity, that is finding self-compassion through writing. I want you all to find a piece of paper or somewhere to write on. It could be your phone or your computer, and you can turn off your cameras if you like. This will be a very interpersonal activity. So before we begin writing, close your eyes and think about all of the things that make you feel stuck, that may be affecting your self-esteem or your self-belief. Think about all of those things that can cause you to stop, to pause things that might be triggering for you. Write them all down however you like. You can illustrate them, you can list them, write however you'd want to. I'll give you all 3 minutes to do this first step. And if you're watching the recording, you may pause the video and write and take your time to write those things from this first step. If you've finished, now that you've written it all down, I want you to picture someone you love unconditionally. This could be your parents, your siblings, your best friend, a teacher, someone that you hold dearly to you. Let me know once you find that individual. Now that you have that person in your mind, imagine that all of the things that you wrote were about that individual. All of your strengths and all of the feelings from step 1 belong to this person. How would you respond to them? How would you make them feel better? Write a letter to them, and I'll give you 5 minutes. Again, if you're watching the recording, please go ahead and pause and write your letter. Once you are done with the letter and you've written both papers, please go ahead and take the letter and read it to yourself as if it was directly towards you. You'll have 2 minutes, and I'd like to ask the question once you're done. How do you feel? What do you think? Do you think it's something that you'd tell your friend? And if so, why wouldn't you tell it to yourself? So just like the video said, practicing a little bit of more self-compassion with ourselves lets us clear our mind and focus on the task at hand. Lets us clear our mind of the negative thoughts. Lets us have a better outlook into our situation. So practicing and writing these types of letters down is very powerful, to make you really reflect on what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and sort of dissect those thoughts that might be going through your head. Please keep this letter with you. Please keep it to remind yourselves the power and value that you have. So moving on, how do we increase motivation now that we know what self-compassion is, now that we've reflected a little bit on our values? By taking control. So if there are tasks that may be too long, break them down. Take them step by step. What can you prioritize? What can you be doing right now? And what could be done later? Set a routine. If we set a routine that can trick our brains to think that it will be a productive day, we can have a productive day. This means waking up at the same time every day, putting on your shoes, getting ready if it was a normal day. It doesn't mean that we have to be constant with this. We can sleep in every other day, but it means that we are trying to be intentional about waking up our body and brain to get things done. Get some sunlight. Being cooped up at home may make our home feel like a funk, like we're stuck there all day. Open up some windows if you can and let some sunlight in. It can improve your sleep and your attitude throughout the day. Find what type of motivation you lean towards, whether it's intrinsic or extrinsic. Try to reflect whether you are underusing it, overusing it, and how can you improve and use these types of motivation to your benefit. Introduce positive activities in your routine, such as doing something nice for yourself, like going on a walk, writing on a journal, painting, cooking. Find what makes you feel good and keep doing it. This can really make yourself and feel better and have such a better attitude towards things that you can even trick your brain into, being positive all the time. Doesn't mean that we have to be positive all the time, but it means that we're trying to be positive and we're trying to move forward and we're trying to be motivated. And finally, make realistic goals. Consider all of the factors, and again, pat yourself in the back for even trying. Now, what can we do to change the perspective? Practice mindfulness. We'll be going over some resources later into this presentation, but this is something that we all can learn how to do to stay centered and grounded. Really focus on what's at hand at that moment. Try to stay grounded and focused on what's happening right there and then. Don't try to worry about what's going to happen tomorrow, about what happened yesterday. Try to focus on what you're doing at the moment. Practice self-compassion. Be nice to yourself. Love yourself. Keep writing yourselves letters. Keep reminding yourselves the worth and value you bring to this life. Celebrate the wins. Not everything is going to be a win, but celebrate that you tried. Celebrate that you showed up and celebrate that you're here. Take mental health breaks. Don't overdo it. Don't overstretch yourself. There's only one of you and you are the priority. Practice self-reinforcement. And this relates a lot to practicing mindfulness and self-compassion. Find a reward system that works and keep on working it. Finding motivation is hard and it's not going to be easy. And this is not a change that we'll find from one day to another. But these are things that we can slowly start introducing into our life. We can maybe do one thing from this list that we introduced. Maybe tomorrow I can try it. Maybe next week I can try another thing. And start adding those little things to your routine. And you will find a better outlook and a better perspective to the situations. And I just want to extend this to let you all know that we're here for you, and whatever you need, please see us as a resource. So moving on to our goal setting activity. We will be doing more writing in this activity. So if you'd like to get another piece of paper or get another page on your computer or your phone so we can begin. Excuse me. So the first step for this activity is, where do you want to be in the next 2 years? What do you want to do in 2023? I'll give you 3 minutes to write it out, but where do you want to be? What do you want to do? Do you want to work? Are you graduating high school? Are you going to high school? Do you want to play a sport? Do you want to have a higher GPA? Do you want to do another activity with your parents, with your family? Let me know. What do you want to do in 2023? Once you've written that down and you've identified where you want to be or go, in step 2, I'd like you all to write down what steps do you have to take to get there? What factors do you need to consider to get there? And what are you missing so far? I'll give you 3 minutes. Once you've done step 1 and step 2, I'd like you all to also write down how you can practice self-compassion to make your goals happen for 2023. I'll give you another 3 minutes. Once we've completed this activity, you have a better outlook of what your goal is, what you're going to be motivated for, what the steps you're going to take to get there, and how you're going to be practicing self-compassion to get there. Writing is a very powerful tool to really reflect on what we're feeling and thinking. The more we write our goals and what's bothering us, the clearer our mind can be to reason and manage what comes towards you. You can utilize your letter from the first activity and your goals from this activity. Please use them, please keep them with you. Read them and reflect when you need it. Like I said, this won't be easy, but you'll have these tools to keep practicing how to motivate and sustain your motivation. At the same time, practicing self-compassion. So some resources I'd like to share with you. First is with Project Vida. Like I mentioned, please see us as a resource. We do provide therapy services as well as primary care services, dental services, along with the long list of other services that if you're interested, please reach out to us. Please reach out to me. Spotify has some podcasts and meditation that you can listen to. YouTube also has guided meditation. And there is a lot of apps that you can download that will help you have positive affirmations that will give you a little bit of a message every time, every so often, that will help as a positive affirmation. I'd also like to share these 2 apps, the Insight Timer app and the Smiling Mind app. They're very good if you'd like to begin practicing mindfulness or meditation. They have some nice activities in both of them, and they're both have free meditation activities. I'd also like to share this Headspace Guide to Meditation that is in Netflix. It is a series that sort of breaks down what meditation is, how to get there, practicing some beginning steps, and they also have a segment on going to sleep. So they have a meditation that will help you ease yourself to go to sleep and stay asleep. So if you'd like to take a picture of this, screenshot it, whatever you need to, please go ahead and try these resources if you'd like to. And again, we're here for you. Please reach out if you need any sort of assistance. So to end this workshop, I'd like to ask some of you to answer what you learned, what you felt, and what you're going to do with this information. Well, thank you everybody for participating. I really appreciate you either seeing this recording or being here. We appreciate our community and we hope that you stay connected. Again, my name is Jessica Lerma. Anything you'll need, please reach out to us. Thank you for being here. And I hope you all practice self-compassion, not only with those around you, but with yourself. You are important, you bring value, and you got this. Thank you so much.